Got a couple questions for you. First of all, in how many of your companies do you hear a great deal of concern about the lack of essential skills of your new hires? Raise your hands. I see maybe half the hands, maybe fewer. Second question, how many of you personally have had reason to be concerned about the quality of education that children you know are receiving in public schools? Raise your hands. Aha, now that's most hands. Last question. How many of you believe that the federal No Child Left Behind law passed 7 years ago is addressing either one or both of these problems? Raise your hands. Let the record show I do not see a single hand. I ask this because we in education frequently start with solutions to problems that we don't always understand. We have something I call answeritis. What's the problem we need to solve? Well, I figured out a very kind of academic way of sort of describing this, very theoretical. I hope you'll bear with me. I call it the rock and the hard place. And we, of course, are the middle of that particular sandwich. Here's the rock. In the new global knowledge economy, all students need new skills. The skills for a successful career, the skills for college, and I would argue the skills for active and informed citizenship have converged. They're the same skills. Students who don't have these skills are going to be sentenced to a lifetime of marginal employment and I think also marginal citizenship. But that's only half the problem. The second half of the problem is that this generation, the next generation, is very, very differently motivated, both in school and in the workplace, in case you haven't noticed. So we could solve either one of these problems and get nowhere. We have to solve both. And that suggests the need to reframe the education problem. It's not a problem of reform. It's not a problem, more testing is going to fix. The fundamental problem is to rethink our American and indeed our global education systems to create new knowledge so that we can motivate all students to aspire to excellence and ensure that all students have the core competencies they need to succeed. So let me take each one of these problems and spend a little bit of time on them. 3 years ago, I read The World is Flat, and I became very worried. It became obvious to me, but somewhat belatedly, as a recovering high school English teacher, that in this new world, any job that can be turned into a routine is going to be either offshored or automated. And so the question I began to worry about is, what are the skills our young people are going to need to get and keep a decent paying job in this global knowledge economy? So I decided to do some research. I decided to do interviews. I interviewed scores of senior executives from companies as diverse as Apple to Unilever to the U.S. Army, trying to understand what are the core competencies that are absolutely essential for all employees to have in this new global knowledge economy. I came to understand that there are, in fact, 7 survival skills with which there was universal agreement about their importance. And they're consistent with all the studies that I also reviewed about workforce skills and lack of preparedness. So I'm going to briefly describe these 7 survival skills and then talk a little bit about what the implications are.